morning. I'm David Bowman, the Executive Director of the Four Corners Regional Education Cooperative #1. And one thing that I have to do a lot is sign stuff. I'm signing letters and memos and purchase requests and legal documents and invoices and just stuff. I have to sign a lot of stuff. The very last thing that I want to do is print off a document, sign it with my pen, scan the document, attach it, and then send it. I mean, I'm starting with an electronic document. I don't want to turn it into paper just so I can sign it and then turn it back into an electronic document. What I would rather do is just stick a signature on there, an electronic signature. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. A very simple process using Photoshop of creating your own electronic signature. Now, before we do that, here's where we start. I took a white piece of paper and I signed it a bunch of times. And then I scanned this. Now, from here, and I put it into Photoshop. From here, let's switch over to Photoshop, a little screen sharing. So there's my document. And as you see, I signed it, or I attempted to sign it 4 times. Apparently, number 3 was kind of a disaster. So I look at this and I think, the last one, that works for me. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to isolate it. I want to get rid of all the other signatures because that's the one that I want to work with. And the very simplest way to do that is simply crop out everything else. So I'm going to come up here to my marquee selection tool and select that. Then I will just do a little selection around my signature, not too accurate. You don't want it to be too accurate at this point. And I've got that selected. To get rid of everything else, I'm going to come up here to my image menu at the top, and I'm going to select crop. And Photoshop will basically crop the entire image down to that part that is selected, and everything else is gone. All right, so Control or Option D to get rid of my highlights, and let's just blow that up a little bit. About there's pretty good. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to isolate the signature, because if I just take a big white thing and I drop it into a document, it's going to cover up everything else around it. I want a transparent signature. So if I put it on a line, or if I've got words around it, I want it to be able to show through. So I want just the signature, and it's really easy to do. Now, over here, I have my layers panel open, so I can see my layer 0 there. If you have a little padlock next to it, it means it's locked, and you won't be able to do anything to it. So if you have a little padlock over there, double click on the padlock to unlock this layer. And then we can do everything right here, and we're good to go. Easy peasy. All right, so I've got 2 things I can do to extract my signature. I can select my signature, try to get in there very carefully, or I can select all that empty white space around it. That's much easier. So that's what we're going to do. Now, over here in my Tools menu, I've got my little magic wand, which will say, this color range, find stuff that looks like it and select it. That's what we're going to use, because we really only have 2 colors. We've got gray tones, or nearly black, and we have white. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to use that tool to select all the white. So how do we do that? So some settings to look at, I'm using my 3x3 average, which basically says whatever, this little group of pixels right here, get the average color, that's what we're looking for, or 5x5. The one you don't want to use is point sample, just in case there's any variation. 3x3 should be fine. I've got white and gray tones, so I'll do that. I've got my tolerance set at 15. And very importantly, up here you will see there's a setting called contiguous. Contiguous means we'll select this color right here at this spot. And we'll go a little farther. We'll look to see if we still have it, and still have it. And it will only select areas that are immediately adjacent or touching the point that you select. I want all the white, even all the white parts that are inside the swirly bits inside my signature. So I do not want contiguous. That one is turned off. All right, so I've got my magic wand. I have my 3x3 average. I have my 15 tolerance, and contiguous is turned off. Let's just click on a white area. Ta-da! I have now selected all the white areas. And it looks wonderful. The problem is I'm not working with the white areas. I want my signature. So I actually have the opposite selected of what I want. I need to inverse my selection. Instead of selecting all the white, select my signature. The simplest way is Control-Shift-I on my keyboard, or Option-Shift-I, to inverse the selection. Or I can come up here to my select menu and say inverse, and there's the key strokes for it also. Now, the signature is selected and the white part isn't. So from here, now I want to get rid of all the white stuff. I want that signature by itself. Easy peasy. There's a nifty little trick called duplicate selection or duplicate layer, which is up in the menu somewhere. The easy way to do it, Control-J or Option-J on my keyboard. It will create a new layer with just the selected parts in it. So Control-J. And now you will see over my layers menu, I have two layers. Layer 0, which is my original, and layer 1, which now only contains the signature. So look, if I turn off or hide layer 0, what I've got is my signature all by itself, and it looks lovely. Okay, but I'm looking at this thinking, well, apparently I was leaning over when I wrote my signature. I want to kind of straighten a little bit because it's the whole thing's a bit at an angle. Easy to do. Over here on my toolbar again, by default, there's something that looks like a little eyedropper, I guess. If I click and hold, I get a menu. I want the option called ruler tool. Now, ruler is typically to measure, like from how many pixels from here to here, or depending on your resolution, how many inches from here to here. But it has another feature for straightening layers, and I'll show you how we do it. So I've got my ruler tool selected. I'm going to just estimate, if I put this onto a line, straight line, like in a document, where would that line be? And I'm going to click and drag. In this case, I'll click and drag more or less under the letters in my name. And now up here at the top of my window is an option called Straighten Layer. And it will use the line that I just drew with the ruler tool, and it'll move the whole layer so that that line is horizontal. So I click it, and there we go. Now, one of the reasons why I left some white space around it when I cropped out that is because when I rotate this, as I just did, to adjust the straightening, I didn't want it to run off the image. Okay, so we're good there. Now we're really close. So I've got my signature by itself. I've got it straightened so I don't look like I'm falling out of my chair. And now what I want to do is limit this or crop it down to just my signature. Easy peasy. And we're going to do something very similar. So I'm going to come back here to my magic wand, and I could either select the blank space, or I could select anything that's dark. I do recommend selecting the blank space because, as you see with that long swoop that I've got, it sort of fades out. And if I try to select black, it might fade out so much that with my 15 tolerance, it doesn't actually pick it all up. But I do know that the whole blank area is blank. There's nothing there. So I'm going to select the blank area instead. And then I'm going to Control Shift I to invert, just like I did before. And now I'm going to crop it again to basically constrict the image to just my signature. So I have my signature selected. I'm going to come up here to image again, same thing we did before. I'm going to choose crop. And there is my signature. So Control or Option D to unselect. I now have my signature all by itself. So I have to turn it into an image that I can use. Easy peasy. I'm going to come up here to my file menu, and there's an option called export. Now, normally I would say quick export is JPEG. Just give me the image, right? But I need something a little different this time because the background is transparent. A JPEG will not give you a transparent background, which is what I want. So instead, I have to be a little trickier. I'm going to choose export as. And now I've got some options. There's the picture of it, the size, blah, 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 blah. And up here in the format, I've got JPEG, GIF, and PNG. I want the PNG file because, as you can see, it gives me the option for transparency, which I have checked. And let's hit export. I will toss it into this folder and save. Now let's go look at that folder. Let's see what we've got. So here's my folder, and by golly, right there is my signature all by itself. Well, I'm here, I'll get rid of the other one. Okay, so there's my signature. What am I going to do? I've created my electronic signature. I'm done. But now let's take a moment and see how do we actually put it into a document. So I have a sample document already loaded up. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Blah, da, 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 da. Sincerely, hugs and kisses, David Bowman, Executive Director. This is where my signature is going to go. I'm going to just grab my signature and drag it in there. Oh, it's in there, but it's huge, right? Obviously, that's not what I'm looking for. But if you remember, I made my signatures kind of big, which is fine because it's pretty simple to scale them down. If you start stretching them out, if you ever need it bigger, it kind of loses resolution and starts to look choppy and not good. Better to have it too big and then squeeze it down into the space that you need. So I'm going to click on it. Now you'll notice if I drag it around, it's going to move everything, right? Which is kind of a nuisance, honestly. There's a better way to do it. When I have that image selected, over here on the right-hand side, I've got my little layout options menu that I can click on. And normally it's in line with text as if it were a character or a word, right? But I want it to just go on top of everything so I can move it around where I want. And in this case, my bottom right option says in front of text, and that'll be fine for us. So let me do that. And then I can grab the little handles around it, shrink it down to the size that I want. And because I said in front of text, I can put it wherever I want. And as you'll see, it's transparent, which is very cool. So I'm going to put it about where I want. I'm going to move it up. I think it looks kind of fun to have the top bits overlap something. Doesn't have to, but I kind of like the way it looks. And certainly if you're putting this on something that has a line, like sign here, and you've got a line, if you If you don't do the layout option, it's going to, go the line, put in your image, and then it continues the line over here. No, I want my signature on the line. That's why we use that layout option. I size it, I drag it how I want, and now I have signed my document with my brand new electronic signature. Easy to do. I hope you find it useful. I will say one quick last thing that I always have to include when we do these videos. All of these videos are available on our website. If you ever want to go see them, all of them, we've got a bunch of them on there, actually. You can view them at, and let me give you the address. Let me get my brush tool at https://nrec.org/TECHBITS. All of our videos on there. This one is being recorded. We're going to have it up there in a couple of days also. So I hope you find it useful and have a good time creating and using your own electronic signature. Thank you very much.